Spoilerin time, folks. This is the show where we take all of the work we do on Cordkillers, the main show, where we're talking about how to watch things, when they're coming out, all that sort of stuff. And we talk about the things we watched. This week, we'll be talking about The Last of Us, the first episode, as well as 2025-21 Season 1, Episode 9. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood.
Yeah, dude. I'm super stoked. I'm going to shut my mouth. Let's dive in.
Okay, for those expecting Miami Vice, we will be getting to it next week. Amen, send money. We were going to do it this week. We're not. We're going to do it next week. So the one with Ben Stiller, if you watched it already, you're ahead of the game. That's next week. Let's talk about The Last of Us, Episode 1. I feel like we have a nice trio. Brian played and loved the video game. I have never played the video game. Bryce, what is your video game? Yeah.
No, it's good. I like it. I haven't played the second game, played it, but I have played it and enjoy it. Yeah.
I'm going to hold back. Bryce, I would love to hear your opinion first. What was it like to know the game and did you like the angle they went with or what?
I guess the thing that having played the game, having beaten the first game, right? I was already ahead of the curve, right? Like, I know where we're going with this, so you really need to make it worth my time. And I think they did a good job of focusing in on Joel and Ellie's story, how they end up getting together. They do a good job of pacing it. I think it's fantastic that they get out of Boston at the end of the episode, because if this was another show, we would have spent weeks in Boston. Which makes me think we're gonna tell the story pretty quickly, which is what I'm hoping for, and not the opposite.
Yeah, I'm going to speak in code in case anybody has played the game or not played the game or whatever. I'm going to assume that this entire first season is the whole first game.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
I mean, with the pace of, because there's a lot of middle ground. There's just a lot of. We got to go from here to here to here.
There are truly delightful, magical moments that happen in the first game that I expect to see. Now that I see the pacing that they're doing, like I think we're going to get, for example, a singular magical moment that happens in Salt Lake City. I think will appear in the show.
From what I could tell, I'm not a super diehard. I am told that there were little call-outs and references to the game, including many scenes being very, very faithful to the way that they're presented in the original games. But I did not feel like this was that this was heavy-handed at all with references that, like, Tom, did you feel like there were any bits that stuck out as like, is that for me? Or is that not for me?
No.
I
never once felt like I was left out or, oh, I guess I should have played the game to understand that. The only times I even felt any kind of video game presence arising in my mind were certain sections that I was like, oh, that felt like it would have made a good cutscene. That's something I feel in certain TV shows and movies that aren't video games, right? Sometimes you're watching an action film and you're like, oh, that sequence could have made a cutscene. In this case, I felt like, oh, it probably was a cutscene. That was never a negative. That was never a drag on my experience, though.
It is surreal. It was surreal in the video game, and it was surreal in the HBO original series. For so much of it to feel authentically Austin, yeah, they didn't go so far. In the video game, you actually see you take a moment and you can look at the road signs and realize, oh, that's definitely
San Marcos is
Texas
that way,
State
Austin is
Highway
that way.
183.
When we got to that point, Eileen looked at me and said, "Do you know where that is?" I'm like, "Yeah, pretty much."
Yeah. They didn't show the Austin Bridge over Lake Austin and so on, but I feel like to anybody who didn't play the game, that fake out opening, and yes, it wasn't quite Ned Stark getting his head chopped off, but it was a very good fake out for nobody who is aware that of the stakes that we're playing for here.
Yeah, I think that was the one thing, as somebody who's dimly aware of the game, even though I've never played it, was that I immediately knew, okay, well, that's not Ellie. I know that the girl who played Lady Mormont in Game of Thrones is playing Ellie. So I assume the daughter's not going to make it. And Eileen, without even knowing that much about the game, felt the same way. She's like, so I guess she's not going to make it, huh? At one point, because we knew that the girl who played Lady Mormont was going to be the main character, and yet I didn't think it was robbed of its power. I thought that scene was executed.
And there's a significant amount of it's confusing for me because I've got kids that I've experienced the game with, and also kids who are very much like the relationship between Joel and his daughter is awfully close to my relationship with my 15-year-old daughter. And it's confusing and emotionally charged and great. Like both me and Josie were just bawling 30 minutes into this, just crying our eyes out. It's great. It's great. And more importantly,
they did it. The one thing I'll interject is they did an amazing job of making you care about his daughter.
Yeah.
Like just brutally setting you up. Like she's the protagonist of the story, right?
Right. Well, and on top of that, there would be a temptation if I didn't actually have a 15-year-old daughter who was so similar with a sassy attitude and a clever wordplay. I would be tempted to believe like, well, no kid is that awesome and no dad has that relationship with their kid. And yet there I sat with my daughter with that exact type of relationship. It was...
You totally forgot to bring the cake for your Last of Us watch party, didn't you?
Yes. No, I definitely just got it in from Las Vegas for secret reasons. But yes, no.
You can bring it tomorrow on the last day before retirement.
Yes. My birthday tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. After 40 years on the force with the family and a birthday and an anniversary.
Tom, how optimistic are you? Because I've seen a number of articles that bring up the fact that The Walking Dead kind of meandered into the weeds and never came back. Do you believe in The Last of Us or no?
Yes. I'm want to believe in things I shouldn't believe in. So maybe I'm not a good litmus test for this, but this show carried me through. I never once checked my watch. I never once tapped to be like, how much longer do we have? And when we got to the end, I was upset that I couldn't just go to the next episode, that I couldn't just be like, all right, what happens next? Because as I mentioned on Cordkillers, we're watching Big Mouth and you can do that because that already is out. And so I was kind of in that mode of like, well, I want to watch the next one now. So it is working for me. If anything, it felt a little slow at the beginning because I'm like, well, I know we're going to have a post-apocalyptic universe when we get in there. And frankly, they got there real fast. Like I did not feel that way much. It was more of like, oh, okay, we're going to start with the backstory. And then next thing you know, sirens, those airplanes. I don't care if it's unrealistic that 3 airplanes would fly low over the road. That was a hell of a shot. Maybe it's unrealistic. Maybe it isn't.
Oh, no. I think you're 100% right. Like the intentional decision to make all of the noise in the periphery. Like we stayed with our main character because, go back to September 11th, 2001. I was mainly worried about how that affected my touring schedule. It's dark and awful to think about, but that's the reality of living through colossal disaster.
One beautiful moment was when you have Ellie, the conversation with Ellie, and who's the leader of the Fireflies? What's her name?
Doesn't matter.
Tess.
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 Wait,
right. No. Tess
Marlene.
is Joel's friend.
Marlene.
Yeah.
Yes.
Marlene.
You have that conversation between Marlene and Ellie. Then you cut to Joel, and that's Tess, right?
Yes.
And they're going through the subway, and you show up, and everything has already happened. They didn't have to show you the firefight. They come out, they come through the door and there's bodies everywhere, and you know
Yeah.
what's happened. They didn't have to waste my time showing me, well, and then the guy with the battery showed up and there was that, like, I loved that. I was like, oh, wild. They're not going to show, like, last time I saw them, everything was great and they were on their way, and now everything is chaos, but I get it immediately. So efficiently told.
This is reminiscent of what I loved about Andor is I felt respected as a viewer. I felt like they were winking at me and saying, "We know you get this. We're going to skip
Mhm.
past the BS and we're going to get to the thing."
Yeah. No, absolutely. I absolutely felt the same way. And not even just respected as a viewer, like we know you're paying attention enough and are sophisticated enough to follow, but also just like, and so we're not going to waste time. We're not going to be intentionally obtuse either. We're just going to tell you the things you need to know.
Though at the same time,
yeah.
right? Like we don't like we don't get told too much concretely just in this first episode, right? We know something happens. We know there's an outbreak. We know there's a quarantine. We know there's some sort of sickness. We know there's a fungal element, and we see, one of the clickers kind of up on the wall, but no one says the word clicker. We don't see one alive, I don't believe, other than the people early days getting infected and showing symptoms.
Yeah, I don't even know what a clicker is.
As somebody who has played the game, Bryce, how did you feel about that opening 1960s TV show moment?
I thought that was fine.
I loved it. I thought it did exactly what it needed to do. It was, visually a treat. It was,
and it sets
it was
the
a
stakes.
place to go. Yeah.
If you just tell people a fungus as a disease and you just say that it's bad, well, okay, but that really sets the stakes of like, no, it's bad and it would be bad for a long time. This is the world
And it has been bad, and this is universal throughout time.
Yeah.
Bad news.
It's I thought that was a great way to set it up, because otherwise, we don't really see a lot of what happens at all. We don't get drudged into, we got to stop and we got to say that this is the day they shut the thing down, and that, like, no, just there's a virus.
Yeah, we don't need to see Joel's journey to Boston, right?
Right.
We know he got there, right?
Which is
and
reminiscent of the game, right? The game does have that same cut there, which is good. I mean, I think they have a very a good script from the game. They're working off of that to some degree, and it's very smart.
And I was 100% in on the idea of, like, Marlene was, with the Fireflies, was basically like, none of this is how I wanted things to go. Unfortunately, I don't see a better option than, Joel, you're going to take this girl. Yeah. You'll be taken care of. That's all we need to discuss.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was just enough discussion to make me believe that Joel would agree, even though he didn't want to agree, right?
Right.
Just enough to discussion that you would need to tell Joel, like, listen, buddy, you're going to get what you want that you don't have out of this. And I was like, oh yeah, no, he's not going to want to do this, but he's going to realize that this is the thing he needs to do to get the truck.
Brian,
so he's going to try.
It felt pretty authentic, the Fedra side of things, where it's like, there's graft and corruption, and, people got to get along to move along. And, some people were born after this terrible apocalypse and so on. Yeah. I loved all of that.
What did you think about the point that they end the episode on, right? They, in the middle of that conflict with her announcing, I'm not sick. I thought that was a really good way to do that, with some tension for people who knew that beat was coming, and for people who didn't.
Yeah, they pretty much just got it out of the way, but I would be curious, Tom, how that landed with you.
Oh, I knew she was infected. That was made clear to me in Marlene's conversation with her, when she said something like,
if you tell people
you're still feeling okay.
Die.
They demonstrated that they were being very careful, like, say your name, count to 10. I'm like, oh, they're checking to make sure she's still who she thinks she is. Then she's like, you haven't you feel fine, and Ellie's like, I felt fine for a week, and they also had shown us the chart earlier with the kid where they
Right.
were like, if you've been bitten up here, it's an hour. If you've bitten up here, it's a day. If you've been bitten down here, it's 3 to 5 days. So I knew, like, oh, okay, so if she got bit on her arm, and it's been more than a week, she should have turned already, and she hasn't. So when they wanted to check her with the thing, I'm like, oh, this is bad. I was nervous, right? Like, well, I know, obviously that Joel and Ellie are going to get out of this situation somehow, but how is this going to work? Because she's going to turn red. And I thought it was great that the military never notices that she turned red. It's Tess and Joel who do,
Right.
who immediately are like, yeah, we're not going to truck with that. And then she makes the case of like, it was more than 5 days. Look, I've totally healed over. I couldn't have healed over, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, that all worked for me. It was really elegantly done.
Yeah, I don't know what else to. I feel like if I speculate anymore, I'm going to get in trouble and possibly ruin this for you.
Yeah.
Are you enjoying it, Tom?
Absolutely enjoying every single moment of this first episode, and eager to find out what's going to happen as they begin their trek. And I don't want to ask questions for fear that I'll tempt you into answering them. So I'm not going to do much of that either, other than to say
one last question. Did you so in video games there's sort of a you want to present the illusion of choice, where essentially you're always walking down a tunnel, right? This television reinterpretation of the video game, I felt like had all of those beats of walking down a tunnel. Did you feel those as you were watching it?
The one time I really felt it was when they're going through the subways. That was the first time that it struck me like, this would have made a great video game play element. Most of the time I wasn't thinking about it.
I felt it when they were going through the small Texas, what I think of as Blanco, Texas. It's like,
oh, when they're driving,
yeah. All of a sudden a car crashes and it's like, well, there's only one way to go. That's interesting. That
definitely felt like a little video gamey to me. But I didn't have enough time to think about it because too much was happening.
Yeah. Bryce, what grade do you give it?
At least an A. I think this is a fantastic first episode to begin with, for sure.
Agreed.
All right. That is The Last of Us, Season 1, Episode 1. Now, Brian, because of your travels, I know you didn't watch 25-21-109 yet.
Spoil me.
So we're going to let you go? Or are you're going to hang out?
No, I'm going to hang and ask questions. Like, what happened next?
You're going to use this as a way to catch up, basically.
Yes.
Is what it sounds like. All right. Well, let's talk about 25-21, Season 1, Episode 9. I did provide the skip guide, Bryce. Did you use it?
Less. I didn't use all of it. I
I felt like this was a stronger episode than the last episode. There were fewer things where I was sure to skip.
Yeah.
And the stuff that I did give to skip, I'd say half the stuff I said to skip, I was like, it's really not that bad. And it wasn't even that long.
Yeah, especially I think this happened last week too, but there were a couple of bits where I would just get lost in watching it and then check the guide and go, oh, I was supposed to skip that bit. The only bits I really I don't care much for the guy who likes Koyurim, the other guy in there in the last
the DJ looking
the high
guy.
school kid.
Yeah. The pretty boy. Whatever. I don't like his story very much, so I'm glad that stuff was skipped over. But this was an episode. What? Sorry.
Ji-young, and I put his section on the skip list because really, I'll be honest, for the future of the story, all you need to know is that they really like each other. And pretty much in this episode, every scene between Ji-young and Yurim was like, yeah, they really like each other.
Yeah. So I think that he's maybe a little more ancillary than I would like, but this episode had a ton of Beck and Hido. There was a ton of both of them, and we really saw. I was glad that we didn't. This was what I said last week. I was glad that he immediately said like, "Nah, it's not me. It's of course it's not me. No, it's not me. I'm not. But doesn't give up the ghost. I was glad about that, to the point where like I feel like I trust this show a little bit more to respect my time.
He protected Koyurim because he's like, well, it's not my story to tell, but I will make it clear that I'm not that person.
Yeah.
And he tells a little white lie like, oh, this yellow rose, I bought it for a totally unrelated reason. Yeah.
Oh,
but yeah.
This was the resolution of the Three's Company bit, right?
Right. So Koyurim now knows that Hido is her chat partner, but Hido does not know who Injilmi is.
Initially.
And they revisit that later in the episode where Injilmi says like, oh, I'm sorry I didn't make it today. It was unavoidably detained. This is Koyurim knowing it's Hido. And yet Hido thinks they haven't met.
Yeah. And well,
how did you feel about that one?
Good. I mean, they resolved that whole they resolved that conflict and like gave us the next bit, right? They're filming the fencing documentary, the news doc about the fencing team, and instead of fighting, they're lovey-dovey because Hido loves Injilmi, right? Like the dynamic completely flipped overnight because of that.
And even though Hido doesn't know who it is, right? Yurim Yurim does admit it.
No, she admits it pretty soon. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. So they're like, oh, well, yeah. And Yurim is like, I was such a jerk. I just, I'm sorry that I treated you that way. And yeah, that's the other part, Brian, is the news people are like, play up the anger between these two. Becky Jin doesn't want to do that. But then they start treating each other really nicely in front of the cameras. And he's like, are you all doing this on purpose? They're like, doing what on purpose? What are you talking about?
They're just actually connecting as humans.
Yeah, they're just actually getting along.
Yeah.
Right.
I thought it was great. And it set up that really big conflict for Becky Jean, right? Of, hey, Beck and Hido meeting Hido's mom and him realizing, oh, your mom is the anchor at the news station that I work at. Basically my boss's boss's boss. Here I am, like that was such a great moment. That was a great conversation.
I loved that. I love that scene where Beck, we've set up in previous episodes that he has to run to find a phone. He's going to run to find a phone, and Hido's like, "You're right here at my house. Just use my phone." He does. He does his report. Everything goes fine. You think, oh, what's going to go wrong because he's at home? Nothing goes wrong. But then he's done with his report, and his, the most important person in his company comes walking through the door. He thinks he's going to get in trouble for being with Hido. Hido thinks they're going to get in trouble, like that his mom's going to think they're together. The mom is more worried about the reporting than she is about any possible relationship.
And again, this happened in the first or second episode too. I really appreciated that the mom said like, "Hey, this is not going to work the way you've got this set up. Either he's going to be more of a journalist, and this relationship is going to be inappropriate, or he needs to find a new assignment."
Does she full on like call her daughter and yeah, no, I see what's happening here. No.
They have a sit-down conversation. After she comes home, the three of them talk in the living room together. And it's very clear, like, hey, she even says, like, I'm not saying this as her mom. I'm saying this as your boss and fellow journalist. You can't do this anymore. This is a problem now.
Wow.
And
she's less concerned with them being in a relationship than she is. She's less concerned with them, like, oh, the two of you are together and I wasn't here as a mom. No, she's like, you're reporting on her. So you either cannot report on her, and then we'll talk about whatever that means, or you need to not be close to her because that doesn't go well. I know. See previous story about me and Coach.
What are they filling the air with while the two of them are like on a 6-month probation?
Filling the air on the news station?
Sorry. What are they filling? Both Koyurim and Hido.
Koyurim and Hido are back at high school.
Oh, they haven't finished the documentary thing. That's still going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's the other part of this is Becky Jean's boss wants to do this big high wire shot of them like on like crouching tiger wires crashing into each other to show their opposition. He says that's dangerous. We're not doing that. And even though they don't do that, while Becky Jean is out of the room and they're there to shoot the open, the producer, Becky Jean's boss, has them reenact the simultaneous touch, which Becky Jean gets very upset about because he's like, they could get injured doing that too. It's not the tone of this, etc. And the boss is like, man, you are out of line. Like you're my subordinate.
Yeah. Because he had him do it multiple times, over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Because Koyurim and Hito agreed, okay, we'll just go easy on each other. We won't, because it's dangerous. When Beck comes into the room, he's like, don't you know this is the most dangerous move in action? And like, it was great. It really showed that he
it's the
cared
forbidden
about
fence.
Yeah, a little bit. And that's why he storms in, because Hito twists her ankle or something. He's always running to save the day. Oh, I gotta run to save the day.
And he drives her to he insists on driving her to the hospital, which she's like, I don't need to be driven to the hospital. I'm fine.
Yeah. Otherwise, a very good episode, I thought. Wait, is there more?
And then at the end, he basically confesses about how reporting is a problem in their relationship.
Oh,
that's how it ends.
Yeah. This was great.
One of those cheesy cliffhanger endings of like, oh, is he breaking up or?
Are you turning the corner, Bryce? Because I feel like of the two of us, you were the one that was closer to tapping out than I was.
I think I came around. I really liked this episode a lot. Maybe it's because this was a Sunday one, right? Or was this a Saturday one?
This is the talk in the TikTok. Yeah.
Yeah. So
the odd numbers actually the odd numbers are the Saturdays, aren't they?
Yeah. I thought it was great. They gave us a lot. I like when they give us a lot.
Yeah, this is a more substantive episode. And we're also past the halfway mark. So we are now picking up speed towards the resolution of the story as we move forward.
We're getting to the 20 to the 25 and the 21. I think.
Yep.
We need some birthdays soon.
The 21 and the 25 of it. I would say the important parts of this to me, if part of this is like, but why did you like this story so much? That scene with the mom is one of the ones where I'm like, oh, here we go. She's going to be upset that they're together. And she's way more practical.
Right.
And way more believable than I would have expected. And also the way Yurim comes around and she and Hito resolve their issues. I was like, oh, good. We're not just going to have them constantly bicker throughout the entire series, which they could have done. So I like both of those things out of this.
Yeah.
All right. That is 25-21 season 1, episode 9. So once again, for next time, we will get around to watching Amen Send Money with Ben Stiller as the guest host, Miami Vice. There's 25-21 season 1, episode 10. And of course, The Last of Us season 1, episode 2. Please, if you don't already, support us at patreon.com/Cordkillers. You get these episodes earlier if you do. If you want to listen to this like way closer to when The Last of Us comes out, for instance, being a patron will get it to you in your own personal RSS feed that way. And they're also better packaged so you can just pick the parts that you want to watch or listen to. So go check it out, patreon.com/Cordkillers. We'll spoil you again next time.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.